Hey gang, new numbers, new Sprintwatch, let's get this. All right, so starting this out the same way I always do, that this is just kind of a brief description of what I do here. I kind of go into the roadmap roundup, then kind of discuss the changes that I'm seeing on the release view, and then the real meat of this subject is, or this show is actually on the progress tracker, kind of dive in what I'm seeing there. This time probably just talk about ships a little bit and a couple other little features that I think are interesting. Caveats, I am just a dude on the internet looking at numbers on the progress tracker, which is the same thing you have access to. I don't have any inside sources. I don't know anyone that works at CIG personally. And I try to stay off of leaks, but of course, just watching probably all the same channels you do, I pick up on the same leaks you do. And of course, people will occasionally feed me, oh my God, did you see this leak from Pipeline or whatever? So I do have that kind of knowledge, but no more than you have access to. That's it. Let's get into this. Starting off with the roadmap roundup. We've got notable changes, not a big one this time. Notable changes for October 2nd, 2024, release view. The following cards have passed their final review and have been toggled to committed for Alpha 3.24.2. RSI Zeus Mark II CL, building, balancing, implementing RSI small multi-crew ship. The Zeus Mark II CL into the game. RSI Zeus Mark II ES, building, balancing, blah, 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 blah. MFD rework and new displays, rebuilding ship multifunction displays in building blocks, which is pretty big because building blocks is faster than the old ones, which I believe were programmed in Flash. I think they're programmed in Flash, which was good for its time, but was dated, including new design, functionality, and customization options. The customization options are very cool because they can have individual styles of MFD per manufacturer. So if you're in a Drake ship, it'll look completely different than if you're in Aegis or Misk or Argo or something like that. So that is something they are actively implementing. That's not just supposition on my part. This update also includes a select number of updated ship HUDs, giving greater visibility as well as a manufacturer-based visual overall. It's a select number of updated ships. I would imagine ships that are kind of waiting on an update, like, say, the Misk Freelancer, probably aren't going to get them, but ships that are, I wouldn't even say gold standard, but pretty well developed and don't need a lot of tweaks will probably get them first. They'll definitely take a look at the numbers and pop them on the more popular ships because that's where they'll get the most bang for their buck. So newer ships, most popular ships will probably get them. Like the Carrack needs a lot of work right now because you can't load the cargo bays really. But all in all, the ship functions pretty well. So I wouldn't be surprised if it got the new HUDs and it's also a popular ship, that kind of thing. So like the Starfarer, probably not anytime soon. Other ships, more often. That said, let's get in the release view. Okay, so because these Zeuses are going to be released in 3.24.2, the big changes are actually happening here rather than over here in 4.0. 4.0, they say tentative Q4 2024. I would think that they want to release this for SitCon, but there's just no way. It'll be 3.24.2 will probably be SitCon, since SitCon is now, what, 15 days away, probably 14 by the time you watch this, so not far. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I got it. So yeah, we're going to be getting these Zeuses for SitCon, more than likely. If they might drop 3.24.2 in the near future, like in the next week or two. I'm in Evocati and it seems pretty stable now. It's actually running pretty well. I think they would love to drop it with the 1,000 player count or 2,000 player count. But we'll see. No promises on that one. They kind of bogged down a little bit, which when you're talking about a game with this kind of fidelity isn't shocking. But they're working on it. It's way better. Like the first test they did a few months back, this one was worlds better. So they're getting there. It's might be a true MMO pretty soon, which kind of goes along with some of the other things. Let's take a look at this. MFD rework is just committed, Zeus ES and CL. If rumors are to be believed, there might be a fourth variant out there. So there's still the combat version that we don't have yet. And in the concept for this last SitCon, there was a fourth one that I thought was just a different paint job. And I've talked about this before where I kind of switched between the two pictures. It's the Zeus ST. It actually used this image right here. But as opposed to ES, it said ST and it had an extra turret on top. Rumors state it might be a racing variant. It might be like a pure combat variant. Who the hell knows? There are images out there. CIG did have it in the original concept, even though they didn't talk about it. So the chances of it being real, probably 70-30. They're certainly going to release more variants eventually for pretty much all the ships. But anyway, ESCL, probably be seeing it in a couple weeks. It's already flying around on some of the Evocati branches. They'll drop it in. Of course, some idiot in Evocati leaked a big video of it, so the rest of us are going to lose access to kind of check it out and see how it flies and everything. So thanks, dude. That was awesome. Anyway, Atlas is in the game. Peregrine's in the game. Let's see. Locations. Oh, yeah. The new caves. I think the new caves are going to make it in. They're tentative right now. I think they're going to make it in. So that's pretty much it for the release view. Let's pop over to the progress tracker. So for the progress tracker, usually I move it down to 1/4 when I really kind of want to get into what something is doing and really kind of want to get granular with it. I go to the deliverables view. It defaults to the teams view, which is a little more useful now. You can sort of see that there's a whole bunch of stuff down here. And it's just the archive. It's the way they used to track it. Now they've kind of smashed all their teams together. Yeah, you can sort of see there's 48 deliverables here, 38 deliverables here, and 13 here. And then there's a bunch of Squadron 42 things. Vehicle content teams have a whole bunch. You've got EU and North America. I'm not seeing Montreal there. I wonder if they've rolled North America under Montreal. I think they probably have because Montreal did the Pulse. Yeah, so North America's got to include them. I think the only people, I think QA is down in Austin, and I think like human resources and accounting is in LA, and kind of their legal team is in LA. But I think the actual shipbuilders are up in Montreal. But anyway, Teams does give you some context now, but I still like to use the deliverables just because it goes by the name. So again, acidic caves and rock caves, they're working on them a couple months back, actually about a month ago. They're pretty far along. Of course, they're always going to do polish to them, but there you go. I think there's a really strong chance they'll be in 3.2.4 along with a few other things. Let's scroll on down. So real quick, I kind of want to mention this. People were kind of treating this like it was a rumor or something out of leaks, or was like a 50-50 thing that might be true or might not. No, the Hornets, the F7C Mark II M is the Super Hornet, which I think it's also a Squadron 42 asset. This one takes a lot more time to do because the Super Hornet, at least historically, is a 2-seater, so they actually do have to change the geometry and the functionality a lot more for that one. The Tracker and the Ghost are both on there for the Mark II versions. So those things are real. Probably get them for SitCon. They're not rumors, they exist. They've apparently made some if rumors are to be believed. They've made some advancement on hacking, which is probably what the Legionnaire is waiting on. Without the hacking gameplay, there was really no need to do it. There's also, from what I've heard, some issues. Basically, they've got the hallway of death with it. So what happens with the Legionnaires, it's kind of got this proboscis that comes out and links with the airlock of another ship. The doors open and the Marines pour in. The thing is that it's this narrow hallway. So if you're the ship that's being boarded, you can just set up there with a couple LMGs and just mow down all the Marines, and then you get a free Legionnaire. Probably not intended gameplay. We know that some of the Vanduul ships will actually cut their way through the hull of a ship, and then disgorge them that way. Maybe they should consider doing something like that for the Legionnaire, but who knows? The hacking gameplay, I feel, is what was really holding the ship back, because that's kind of its gimmick. Otherwise, it's just a big jump or dropship in space. But I would not be shocked if it came back up on the radar. Would it be for SitCon? Maybe. It was on the scrolling slideshow that said, preferably by the end of the year, you'll be getting all of these ships. The Polaris was one of them. All of the Zeuses and the Fat Fury were in that mix. We haven't seen a couple of those, like the Fat Fury is still out there. Pretty good chance we can get it for SitCon or IAE. That's usually more the thing that they drop for IAE, but who the hell knows? Asteroid Facility. So this is one that I think is probably a dark horse for maybe 4.0, but I wouldn't be shocked if they dropped it in 3242 or for SitCon, just because it is kind of a cool thing. It's at 116-week sprint, which in dev terms, just given the holidays that they have and the time off, is like more than 2 years. It's probably not quite 2.5 years, maybe 2.25 years. That is a long sprint for this kind of thing. So asteroid facilities will apparently be like dungeon crawls in the extreme. Some will be derelict. You'll have to kind of go into them, but think dungeon crawls and like alien infested things. It should be pretty cool. And I imagine they'll have a few that aren't derelicts that you can just dock with and gas up. I would hope it would come with the Aaron Halo, but they have said nothing about the Aaron Halo for probably 5 years. For those of you who don't know, that is the big asteroid belt that's in between Crusader and Arccourt. I think that's the second and third planet of the stand system. I think it's those two. Base building. So I have mentioned this one a few times. Base building will keep going forever and ever and ever. They're always going to be adding more things for us to build onto bases. So just because this sprint is actually just going into the next year, that's as far as they planned it. This one will keep going forever. Or at least a few more years. That doesn't mean we won't be getting something sooner than that. And base building is one of those mechanics that's very well understood in game dev community now. So game devs have known how to do base building and snapping and that kind of thing for at least a decade. And the tech is very well understood. If you've been watching my SAS Factory playthrough, the three of you, then you can sort of see the bases that you can just build with very simple parts can get pretty extravagant. Obviously, CIG is going to go a little bit more refined than that, or a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Something a little bit more standardized. So you won't be putting up individual walls, but you will be able to slap down a big empty room and fill it with stuff. How much will we be able to do in the first iteration? Probably not much. I would assume it'll be maybe a building or two or a couple hallways, just something to kind of test the functionality, see how it works. Of course, we'll need a building that can actually build it. The materials that would go into that building, will it just be that you buy a box of RMC, and that's what it builds it with. That won't be the final version. You'll have to have like all of the stuff to build a building, but the initial release, think of it as being very, very tier 0, where you will put a box of RMC into the feeder and it will spit out a building. That's how I think it'll work. And it'll be something small. Think like portable classroom size. Charge drain is definitely something that we're getting in the nearest future, whether it will be 4.0 or 3.2.4.2. Wouldn't be shocked if it's 3.2.4.2, because they've already kind of started locking in the tractor beams to specific functionality so they can only move certain amounts of weight. That is intended. That was something that's been intended for a long time. Let's keep going. Crafting. When we get building buildings, that's basically crafting. We already have some crafting functionality. We haven't seen much crafting functionality come in since they added it to the Reclaimer and the Vulture. I would assume we're going to see more in the very near future. Again, crafting is 53 weeks, so a year-long sprint. It does go into the next year, but a lot like building buildings, construction, crafting is something that's going to go on and on and on and on. They're going to come up with different recipes. They're going to come up with different ways to use things. They're going to implement it. Tier 0, though, I mean, we basically got tier 0 in the game right now. Engineering. We have tested this one a few times in the experimental branch, and I believe they had it in Arena Commander for a hot minute or two, but seems like it's coming along pretty well. Will we get it for 3.2.4.2? Probably not. Will we get it for 4.0? Yeah. Definitely will be in for 4.0. Fauna, quasi-grazer. I found out that the quasi was just because they say it wrong. I knew that that's how you say quasi, but they were saying quasi, so I was like, okay, that's the way you say it. It's like Jian as opposed to Zian or whatever. But anyway, Space Cow with the egg sacs. Yeah, it says its release will be 4.0. I would not be shocked if they dropped it in 3.24.2, just because why not? And there are a lot of rumors out there that there's going to be more animals. I definitely think there will be more animals, whether it'll include the boreal stalker, which is the big Yeti thing, the thing that kind of looks like a cross between a Yeti, a polar bear, and a Hoth Wampa. That thing is out there and they've done a lot of work on it. Storm walls, the space whales on Crusader are out there. Some people are saying that the sandworm, and I forget its real name, people that have been digging through the code have seen that the sort of initials that could be the sandworm are in there. And just because the sandworm was such a meme, because during one of the sitcoms, they had the sandworm bust out of the ground. Everybody was like, oh my God, we're getting the sandworm in the game. Never heard from it again. They're like, no. That was just an asset that we kind of made for the video. And people are like, oh, so you faked it. And since then, CIG's been very gun shy about doing that. Valakir or something like that. It's something like that. But they found like VKL monster or fauna, and so people are kind of like, VKL sounds like the Valakir, which is the sandworm. I would buy that. They also think that there might be a type of another type of bird, so like the Maroc, but something else. Wouldn't be surprised if we see, I think they're called the Oni crabs, the kind of floating bubble crab with the nasty pointy teeth, but that thing's out there too. Sandworm, I give that one 50-50. I could see them dropping that one on Daymar just to kind of mess with people. It's kind of like, oh, call it fake, will you? Screw you. Here you go. Here's a sandworm chewing on your junk. Frontier clothing. I have a show that is coming up on this in the very near future, which reminds me I need to write a note to myself. So I won't spoil it now. Headhunters, we're not going to see the Headhunters until we see Pyro. Jump points, not going to see jump points until 4.0. Item overheat. I think that'll be a 4.0 thing because that'll really go along with engineering. So until we get engineering, there's no reason to do the overheating, but there's also no reason to believe they're not going to roll it out with engineering. Life support. Yeah, same thing with engineering. Light amplification scopes you can get right now. MFD rework will be in there. MISC. So there is rumored to be at least 2 MISC ships out there, and we'll get to this when we get down to the unannounced ships. There's the MISC Fortune, which sure as hell sounds like someone trolling the community or trolling the pipeline people. In theory, it'll be a salvage ship. I think that MISC having a medium salvage ship, so something the same size as the Vulture or hair larger, like Connie size, makes sense. Will they call it the MISC Fortune? It does kind of match their naming conventions for MISC ships, so it could be them just kind of being funny like they were with the Raptor, which turned out to be an April Fool's Day troll. It could or trying to figure out which dev is leaking all this crap. But this is, or they're just trying to troll Pipeline by putting a fake name in there. Doesn't mean the ship isn't real though. And I still wouldn't be shocked if that Street Sweeper actually is a vehicle in the game. Probably not one that you would be buying or using, but I would imagine some of the bigger cities like Terra and stuff like that might have them in the background. Maybe Lorville or something like that would have them driving around just to sort of add some flavor. Oh, and the other one's just supposed to be a little starter. Like MISC doesn't really have a true starter. They have the Reliant, which in theory should be competing with the Titan and the Nomad, kind of the starter plus. It's like half a size bigger than like the Auroras, the Mustang, the 100i. They'll get something like the 100i size. MISC doesn't have a ship that size. New player experience, this will be a hill I die on. The new player experience should be you drop into the game as a new player and you said that you want to go through the tutorial. It drops you into your hangar, like the elevator doors open and you're in your, like the overlooking place, overlooking your hangar. And it kind of goes through of interact with the button to open the door. You interact with the button to open the door, pick this thing up, examine it, that kind of thing. And then it says, hey, you're new to this area. You're going to have to get your pilot's license before you can fly. You have to show pilot competency. So you call up your ship or you go down into your hangar and there'll be one of those little simulator pods. If you've never seen these before, go to New Babbage and go to the Apple store, or whatever it is, and go downstairs. Over to the right when you come off the stairs, there's a bunch of sim pods. Those are real things. Back when we just had the hangar module, that was how you entered Arena Commander and Star Marine, was you sat down in that pod and it would close and then it would open up the game within the game that was Star Marine or Arena Commander. So we have had them in the verse before. Would make a lot of sense to just utilize them, because right now for a new player experience, they have to make one for each major landing zone. And you start to think about how many landing zones we're going to have in a game with 100 systems in it. That's dumb. Just saying. Something that I do think that we could see pretty soon, persistent habs. We've got persistent hangars now. They do persist. You drop something on the ground in your home hangar, it'll be there when you come back. Persistent habs, we don't have yet. I think they're kind of waiting for the building interiors to come along before they really do it so that people can actually buy their own habs in different places. So think something more like Cyberpunk, and then you could outfit them with stuff. They're probably just trying to build up enough assets so that they can kind of cover a bunch of different places. Sooner than later, before 4.0, probably not. I could see the quantum travel experience dropping, although it is one of those that they have rolling into the next year. I would not be shocked, probably not for 3.2.4, but for 4.0, which I've been saying for a while. I think 4.0 will be dropped to the PTU at the end of the year. I don't think they'd drop a patch that big and complicated and potentially game wrecking and breaking right before they go on vacation for a month and a half. They've made that mistake in the past, and they've been very careful not to do it again. Quantum Travel Experience, I think, will drop a 4.0, and that'll probably be sometime next year. There's rock caves, just like acid caves, probably next year. Or 3.2.4. Yes, 3.2.4.2. RSI Polaris, 83 weeks. That is a lightning fast sprint for something that big. To give you an idea, the Banu Merchantman had a 97-week sprint, and they were probably about halfway done with it. So they have picked up the pace. And granted, the Banu Merchantman being an alien ship that they had never really done interiors for the Banu before, and no, the Defender doesn't really count. Yeah, it's kind of understandable why they went, let's put a pin in this thing for now. I think we'll see a medium Banu ship with an interior before we see the Merchantman. But that said, 83 weeks, fast. So I have a CCU. So right now I have an A2, and I have no intention of keeping it as an A2. It's just a holding spot. I've got a CCU to a Nautilus. Who knows when we'll see the Nautilus, but if I end up not liking the Nautilus, I've got a CCU from a Nautilus to a Polaris, which I grabbed back when that was much closer together. I suspect when the Polaris drops this time, it'll be an extremely expensive ship. My friend Knight55, check his channel. He's had a Polaris since the concept. He is like, that's the ship I want in the game. So the Carnival will definitely be going out in the Polaris a few times. Once he has it, I'll definitely film that for y'all. Sliding. Where's sliding? So I believe it was last year's SitCon, they showed off a bunch of traversal things. There was the vaulting, which we've got now, the new ladder climbing where you could kind of hang by one hand and like look around and use your gun while you were climbing a ladder. You could climb up or down. Right now, if you start climbing, it kind of locks you in and you're stuck doing the animation. Like if somebody starts shooting you, you are locked into that animation. You're just going to die. Now you can like stop, turn around, shoot. Well, once they implement ladder climbing, sliding is the same thing. They showed off sliding a lot. It's a Squadron 42 thing. We should be getting that in the verse soon, I would think. Space Whale, there's the Storm Wall. Been done for ages, 21 weeks. Well, it's hard to say whether the 21-week sprint was the whole thing. Probably not for something that complex. They were going to give them assets on their skin, like gems and stuff like that, that you could mine while they were flying around. Kind of crazy. But that was Q3 of 2021. So long time ago is when they worked on that. So I would not be shocked if, I don't know why I do that when I could just click that button. Wouldn't be shocked if we see that sooner or later. And I would not be shocked if they put that into the game and don't tell us. Same thing with the Sandworm. All right, now we're down in the unannounced. So one thing I want to point out, the Utility Flex? That is Utility Flex crossbow. The crossbow. We should be getting that in the game at some point. That was, I think what they're trying to do is calculate the drop on the bolt. But that was something for people that backed during the Kickstarter and got that package with it. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of unannounced things here. A lot of them are features. There's 3 there for Squadron, actually 4 for Squadron 42. A couple of them are location based, and I've kind of theorized that they might be water based since they actually worked on water locomotion. We've seen it in the Squadron 42 kind of vertical slice they showed off last year. We saw a boat going around. We haven't had any boats in the game. I wouldn't be shocked if there's more out there. Getting down into these unannounced ones, these are all vehicles here. One of these is probably the Fat Fury. We also know that they have not put the Atlas up there. They have not put the Peregrine is another one that we don't have out there. Peregrine, probably, I would guess the Atlas and the Peregrine are probably that one. And there's a couple ships kind of hidden up here that could also be the Atlas or the Peregrine. That still leaves us with 4 to 5 ships. We know the Fat Fury is out there, so let's knock one of those off. That still leaves us 3 ships. The Legionnaire is a named ship. The Hornet Mark IIs are all up there, so it's none of those. So we got at least 3 to 4 ships coming out. This one I think is probably going to be an IAE ship. In theory, there is a Crusader ship that's going to be kind of a smaller fighter that's going to be kind of a version of the Ares, the one with the one really big gun. This one will have a smaller big gun, like a size 3 as opposed to a size 7. And it'll be like an actual fighter, not a heavy fighter. That one could be out there. Wouldn't be shocked if that was this one, since that one goes into next year. Just kind of a guess on my part. Still leaves 3. So yeah, Fat Fury leaves room for 2 MISC ships, which MISC ships says very good things about my theory that after RSI, they'll move into updating MISC, just because MISC has a lot of ships in the lineup that were very early in the game and haven't seen an update yet. So think the Starfarer, think the Freelancer, ships like that. Even the Prospector works pretty well, but actually Prospector isn't bad. It does have that weird thing that drops out its butt that it was supposed to be. You could go back there and dump out inert materials, never utilized. But they'll probably take off the rings so that you can more easily get the bags, the saddlebags on and off. But anyway, MISC needs an update badly. But anyway, 3 vehicles. What are your guesses? There's a lot of rumors out there. A lot of rumors. Crusader ships, MISC ships. We know there's a MISC ship out there. Fat Fury's out there. That would pretty much fill up this dance card, barring these things up here. I wouldn't be shocked if we get a version of the Atlas that is sealed. I don't think we'll get the Titan suit, which is the actual military version, anytime soon, or prior to Squadron 42 dropping. But I would think that we might get like a salvage version or a mining version. I could totally see them dropping that for SitCon at least. It'll sell 1 billion of them. And last one I'm going to wrap up with is vehicle radar scanning. Would not be totally shocked if we see that in the near future. Probably not 324.2. If we get a 324.3, could be in there. Like SitCon, IAE. That's something that they talked about a while back. The big thing about the new radar scanning is that you can actually occlude yourself. So if there's an asteroid between you and the person scanning, they would lose lock on you and they'd lose you off the radar because you're occluded from the radar. If you were wild weasel flying, or basically nap of the earth, just low flying, there would actually be an advantage to that because the hills and everything would be blocking your radar signal from, or blocking you from radar. Vehicle radar scanning could be very, very cool, especially for people that are good pilots and can keep things low. Volts, would not be shocked if we see at least a couple Volt weapons come into the game. They've been done forever and they're Squadron 42 assets. So there, I lied. I gave you 1 extra. And gang, that's all I got for this one. So thanks for sticking it out. Like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. Yeah, I am more active in my comment section than most content creators, so blab away. I tend to answer almost every comment. So catch you next time.